today we are talking about Drunken Master, martial arts movies. Not usually my thing.
I didn't know that I liked kung fu movies.
This movie stars a young Jackie Chan.
Looking real good.
Take me away, Thunder Leg.
Freddy in this movie is a little asshole.
He is a shit ass. He's still being a dick. He was constantly being a shithead. Your dad's kung fu is shit. No one calls my dad's kung fu shit. I reject Miss Ho. I must be getting addicted. Here's to Miss Ho. He clowned on his cousin and he got his ass kicked by his aunt.
Yeah.
He clowned on his aunt and his aunt threw major shade on him in front of his dad.
Because he doesn't respect them. He's not a great guy. Synecdoche.
Ooh. Say that again?
Synecdoche. Welcome to the Yestalgia podcast. I'm Basil.
I'm Drew.
And I'm Amanda.
And today we are talking about Drunken Master from 1978. Quick synopsis. Freddie Wong, aka Wong Fei Hyung, is a young, talented martial artist, but he's also a troublemaker. After his antics catch up with him, Freddie's father sends him to train and learn self-discipline with So-Hai, who is renowned for his brutal method. That's my succinct plot summary. Yeah, y'all want to talk about our experience with this?
Sure. I saw this movie for the first time when I was, I think, 10 years old. It came on TV and I was a young boy, so obviously martial arts, I'm totally in. And I've watched it a few times since then. I have pretty good memories about it. So I chose it. That's my history with this movie.
Yeah, I've never seen this. I've never even heard about it. Martial arts movies. Not usually my thing. I know Billy mentioned because I was like, oh, I doubt you've seen it. And he said, oh, no, I might, because I guess his brother and his friend, when he was like young, both were very into martial arts movies. So, but I don't believe he had seen it. I watched this one alone this time. So yeah, this is my first time.
A rare movie that Basil has not seen. So I have never seen this film. Of course, I knew of its existence, heard about it a million times, heard its praises sung. I will say 2 weeks in a row, guys, the pressure is on for me because you guys have given me gems the past couple of weeks. I didn't know that I liked kung fu movies. I thought that I didn't, but this was a treasure, Drew, for me. Thank you.
Do y'all want to get into it at all, or have anything specific you want to start with?
This movie stars a young Jackie Chan, spelled Jacky.
Yeah, which is not how he spells his name.
Right.
It's IE, yeah. I saw that, and then I was like, oh, have I been writing it correct in my notes? I did, because I'm so used to seeing it with the IE. I guess I did.
I mean, neither one's his real
He's
name.
Looking good.
But back then, it was called Jackie, and they spelled it with a Y. Then he changed it as he got more fame to the IE.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Is the sort of moniker, or Jackie Chan, was that trying to break into Hollywood films?
Yeah.
Or
same as Bruce Lee, actually. His Chinese name is hard to pronounce for Americans, so people start calling him Jackie, and so he adopted that name so he could have greater success in America.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking real good. Sorry. He was cute in this movie.
There was a couple of cuties in this movie.
Right? Am I weird that I liked the gorilla guy? Except for the weird hair on his chest, the way it was like shaved.
No.
I don't think so.
That man had his titties out and he was proud.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. This is another one of those movies where I was like, I had my laptop sitting next to me and I was like, oh, I'll just, see what Art Nights is doing every now and then. Nope. I did not open my laptop a single time. Once that movie got started, my eyes were glued to the screen, y'all. And it made me kind of wonder, and maybe we want to talk more about the movie itself before we dive into this. I had a tough time with cats. I was like folding laundry while they were dancing. When the martial arts stuff was going on, I really had to ask myself a hard question. I was like, why are you so totally zoned honed in on this. Like, I just had adrenaline flowing through my veins and I couldn't look away because I was like, it's really no different than the extended, very beautiful, very artful choreography of Cats. But this got me. It got me so hard. And this movie opened with one of the most beautiful men I have ever seen in my entire life, Thunderleg. I was like, take me away, Thunderleg. I wanted to be Jackie Chan so bad in that very first scene where he's kicking his ass. From the beginning of it to the end of it, I wanted to walk through his legs. I was like, yeah, punish him, punish him. Some very, very good boys in this movie.
As per usual, the mic is not picking up my cackling. But if we want to talk a little bit more about the film, well, sort of, this is a general thing, if you don't mind. I think, okay, it's a comedy movie, but it is an older comedy movie. And so I find it is a humor that's like not resonating. So it's like twofold, right? Like it's sort of like when I was talking about Tank Girl, where there are enough cultural differences. I know for sure I must be missing certain things, right? So there's that part. But the other part is that a lot of it was kind of slapstick, but that kind of slapstick that's almost like
Three Stooges.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Jackie to T though.
So like I like some slapstick. When I was like younger, I used to love the Three Stooges, but I think where I am now, it's like not to my taste at this point. So like in terms of the comedy, didn't exactly hit for me, and that's fine. You know, we've talked about this before. It doesn't have to be for everyone.
I was kind of taking it seriously. Like, I didn't really clock it as a comedy per se. Like, it had some moments in it too that sort of made me like, not nervous, but like, for example, I'll just give you an example. There's a scene towards the middle-ish, kind of toward the end of the movie where So High, very, very easy for me to remember his name. Thank you for having an easy for me to remember name. So High is waiting on, hang on, let me back up a little bit. I might have fucked up. I watched the dub version. I just picked whatever came up on my search results.
No, that's what I watched too.
Okay. Drew?
Yeah, the original dub though.
Okay.
That's a whole deeper thing. We don't have to go into that. But yeah.
Is his name Freddy?
Yes, Freddy.
Okay, cool. So High is waiting on Freddy.
Well, hold on. So High's name changes too. Is what in yours, in the one you wanted us to watch, Drew? So High was his name originally?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah. So High's waiting on Freddy to come back from town with his wine. He ran out of wine and he was immediately like, no more fucking games. You go get me my wine. And Freddy's kind of fucking around because that's what he does. And we go back to So High and he's sitting in his little shack and they pan in on his hands shaking. And I was like, oh no. I was like, that's not good. I was also like, oh no, that's not good when Freddie started watering down his wine. I was like, you can't do that. He's not going to be okay.
Right.
I had some concern. There were some parts of this movie where I had some concern. But overall, for me, this was just like an action movie that kind of had a lot of funny moments. I don't know. Maybe, Basil, it's kind of like what you said, where I'm just not picking up on it because slapstick's not really my thing. Kung Fu's not really my thing. I thought this is the first and only Kung Fu movie I've ever seen. And there could also be like cultural humor that I'm not getting. So I didn't really...
So on that, have you seen the other Jackie Chan Kung Fu movies though?
I mean, I've seen a lot of like, you know, American Jackie Chan movies. Like
Rush Hour.
Rush Hour, yeah, and The Tuxedo, and God, what else?
Shanghai Noon.
Shanghai Noon, yeah.
Closer, but that's still not really.
I've seen Jackie Chan Adventures.
Did you see Rumble in the Bronx? I think that was one of his like first.
Seen Rumble
Big
in the
American.
Bronx.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know sort of like Jackie's MO, and you almost can't praise Jackie Chan as a performer because it's sort of like saying, oh my God, guys, can you believe how fucking wet that water was? You're being redundant.
So something you may not know, that Jackie Chan has actually been doing acting since he was like 6, I believe, 6 or 7.
No, I did not know that.
So yeah, of course, he's been doing, I mean, it was, Sorry, I did do a little bit of research this time around. It was at the Beijing Opera, I believe, and was part of what was called the Seven Little Fortunes opera troupe, where he learned, acrobatics and dance and yeah. So even by this time, by 78, he has, or I guess whenever they were filming it, which was probably like 77, he had been doing a lot of training. Like what we're seeing is somebody who has honed their craft for like their entire life up until that point. You know what I mean?
He was, his late 20s, his mid 20s when this was filmed?
So he was born in 54. So yeah, like mid 20s.
He was in his mid 20s. Yeah, I mean, the water is super wet, y'all. It's super, super wet. He's amazing. He knows what he's doing.
And like, I'm going to say, like, I feel like a little like I'm in a place that is similar to you when you were watching Cat's Minute. Maybe not. In that, like, I appreciate the art. Like, I'm watching this scene with the martial arts happening, and I'm like, wow, this is really beautiful. This is choreographed brilliantly, like, in a way that is pretty entertaining. However, it was 2 hours of it. And
oh my God.
Nearly.
For me, I was like, I don't think 2 hours is as much as I want to experience this for.
My first reaction was, oh God, this movie is 2 hours long. What am I going to do? But it was like crack. It was amazing. I was like, when am I going to get sick of this? I seriously kept asking myself, I should be getting sick of this anytime now. Like anytime now, I'm going to want to, I don't know, scrub some dishes or something while I watch this. Didn't happen. I did not get off the couch.
You pay attention.
That's a rare W for me. I watched without doing a single chore.
Nice.
I'm going to say that was not my experience. Like I said.
Yeah, you had the cat vibe going.
Yeah.
You had my cat vibe.
So to be fair, I did put off watching it, not because I thought I wouldn't like it or anything like that, but I have an event coming up that I've had to be preparing for. We can talk about that in our personal time. But so my mind's been more on that, and then I kept forgetting, and I'd be like, fuck, I have to do that. So I watched it today.
I watched it literally like right before we started recording.
Oh.
And I'm kind of glad because I would not be able to shut the fuck up about it, y'all.
So I started like pretty soon after I woke up. Anyways, so I had enough time to watch it fully. And then I had a therapy appointment. And then I also technically had time to do it after therapy. So I was like, okay, well, let me just do it before therapy. I'll write whatever notes I have. Maybe I'll revisit it if I feel like I have to or want to after. But I stopped it partway through because I was like, I don't think I can keep watching this the whole way through in one sitting because I was kind of drifting off a little bit. And then I finished it
my heart
after therapy. I'm so sorry. I'm not saying this is a bad movie. There's some stuff I can complain about, but I can complain about just about anything. But I'm not saying this is a bad movie. This is very clearly, and I mentioned this before we started recording, this is just like a cross-section of interests that I have none of in particular. Again, that is not a like judgment on that thing. It's just not for me. And that's fine. Not everything is for me.
It's not your cup of wine.
No. Well, I don't drink wine either. So not my cup of tea, actually, is very fair. It did make me really fucking hungry, though. I'm going to be honest.
When he was housing that shit at the table.
Yeah.
No, hang on. Can we stop for a second? Because I had a question about that scene. It did make me very, very hungry.
Which of the two? Because he does it twice.
I was going to say, anytime that Freddy was eating.
A scam meal?
The scam meal, though. At first, I thought that he was trying to stick his fingers in the man's food so that he could get, like, bites of food.
Well, he did do that, too.
But he was also sticking his fingers in his nose, and he was sticking fingers in his mouth that didn't touch the food.
No, it did.
And I think at another scene, he did it again. What was he doing? Why was he doing that?
He was eating.
Yeah.
So he was pretending he was smelling one finger, and he had dipped the other finger in the food and was eating it off of the dipped finger while pretending to smell his finger. And possibly being so gross that the guy didn't want to look at him. I'm not 100% sure on that part, because he was, like, up in that nose. But yeah, no, he was sneaking food. It's just, it was like a saucy dish. And so he was just licking the sauce off of his finger. Well,
And then the waiter came over. He did touch the waiter's face at least once. And yeah, I was like, no, I have to live with this every day in my life of somebody sticking their fingers in their food, in their mouth, in their nose, in a toilet.
All over, yeah.
And then trying to like shove them in my mouth and nose and eyes and face and hair. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh man, I wanted to escape reality.
Let's be honest, Freddy in this movie is a little asshole.
Yeah, he is.
Shit. He is a shit ass. And he kind of went on a hero's journey, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He started out being an absolute shit ass that I was like, God, I really hope he gets redeemed from this. And I like that the tone of the movie did condemn the things that he was doing. He starts out like clowning on is it a TA? His martial arts teacher?
Yeah. The instructor's assistant.
Yeah. So, and don't get me wrong, the TA is not, a character to root for by any means. He's also kind of a sleazebag weirdo, but he's clowning on him, fucking hilarious. That whole scene. So you're like, yeah, Freddy, be a little fuck ass. You're liking it at that point. But then
well, because you don't know how complete it is.
Exactly. You go to the next scene, and they're kind of like, I don't know, low-key catcalling this girl in the market, and he's like, I bet I can get her to kiss me. Oh, that's child's play. I bet I can get her to hug me. That I kind of thought was funny in a weird tongue-in-cheek kind of way, like kissing is...
They said a hug was sexier than a kiss.
Than a kiss,
and I was like,
yes.
What fucking world? Is that true?
I think that was supposed to be a joke.
I mean, there are cultures where kissing isn't that big a deal. Right? They actually do that for regular greetings, but hugs are more intimate, so it is a bigger deal.
Like embrace somebody's whole body. I get it.
I think in those cultures, they're really into no kiss sex.
Girl, me too. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways.
No, I'm just saying, like, if a kiss is not that big a deal, then it's not sexual, right? So if you have sex, you don't kiss? Like, I don't know.
Sort of like how, I don't know, people kiss their cheeks when they see each other. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anywho, so he's macking on what we find out later to be his cousin.
Yeah.
He does not know this.
Mm-hmm.
But in that scene, I was like, fuck you, Freddy. Come on. And the movie does have a condemning tone about it.
He gets his comeuppance.
Exactly. He gets his comeuppance. Well, not yet. He doesn't get his comeuppance yet. He
does. His
in that scene.
Beats the shit out of it.
But shortly after.
Yeah, not yet. There's a step before that in which he encounters...
Well, hold on.
Uh-huh.
He doesn't get the shit beaten out of him, but he loses. He leaves because he's like, he pretends it's not because she's so good, but she is too good for him, essentially. And he pretends like, oh, it's not a big deal. Yeah.
The woman who ends up being his aunt.
Auntie.
Yeah. Now, she doesn't like kick the shit out of him, but like she does beat him, technically.
She does. She kind of puts him in his place. To which he has this reaction. He's not like, oh, I should learn some respect. He has this sort of like, well, fuck you, old bitch. What does he say?
He does call her a bitch. He also says that her daughter is ugly anyways, which is my favorite reaction from a man.
Yeah, exactly. I thought you were so hot until you rejected me, and now you're hideous. So then it progresses to a market scene. And this is sort of where we get some dissonance in Freddy's character. We're getting some sort of hot and cold. He finds some guy, and I know it's not some guy, I just can't remember who this person is.
He's just like a rich guy who's an asshole.
He finds some rich guy trying to, of course, fucking steal because, nope, put a pin in it. And he stops him from stealing and gives him his money back. So then you're like, okay, I like that. Good, we're good with that. And that is what he ultimately gets in trouble for.
Yeah.
Like, that was the straw. He got in trouble for the whole cousin being gross thing.
It's possible it's both, like, they are compounded, essentially, because it's the second thing his father learns about.
It was the straw that broke the camel's back situation.
Yeah.
And Dad is like, get out, go train with the Drunken Master. That's when he goes to the restaurant and starts acting a damn fool. Gets his ass kicked there, too. Or he doesn't get his ass kicked, but again, he slinks off kind of indignant, like, I don't like your food anyway. You know what I mean? Like, he's not learning anything. He finds the Drunken Master. He's still not learning anything. He's still being a shit. He's still being a dick.
He falls over the Drunken Master's table. Luckily, this happens. The person whose table he falls over is Drunken Master, who kind of saves his bacon, and then
And then he finds out who he is.
Yeah.
And is like, fuck no.
Then we have the turning point. My personal favorite scene of this entire movie, because I am horny on Maine constantly. This scene where he is sort of like lightly searing his wet pants over a fire at somebody's house. I thought it was so funny. I'm like, he's roasting his pants over an open fire, but he's doing it in front of the home, I guess, of Thunderleg, who, that man's hair, his sideburns, his fucking drip. He was so lovely. Am I the only one?
I'll say not exactly my type, but like, he's not bad looking or anything.
And not mine. So.
True. He just has a vibe. So anyways, that's when it happens. Because Thunderleg soundly humiliates him. And it's so good. I was like, I gotta pause the movie. I gotta go smoke a cigarette. It was satisfying narratively. It was satisfying.
However, well, we should say this for later, but the dubbed banter between the two of them is real funny.
Oh God.
Yeah, some is not great. Most of it's not great, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
No one calls my dad's kung fu shit. I loved when he said that.
And of course, this movie has the thing all the old kung fu movies had that everyone makes fun of in different shows and movies. The dub doesn't match the lips, obviously, because different languages.
Of course it doesn't.
But they also don't even try, is the thing. Like, I have noticed lately when I see dubs that they're trying to make it seem at least close.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like, things like that.
In more recent stuff, they'll change the script so that the words that they're saying look more like the words that they say in the other language.
Without changing the meaning, ideally, yeah.
Yeah.
I was about to say, maybe I'm a complete and total nerd, but I feel like I would almost rather it be wildly, completely not in sync with the actor's mouth movements than lose something in translation.
Yeah, it does happen sometimes, but usually they'll try to change the words to match the lips better without changing the meaning.
I also kind of think that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, and for some people, that whole like, haha, the words never sync up in Godzilla movies. I feel like there's,
Racism? Xenophobia?
Thank you. Do you ever think like, this shouldn't be, it's not racist on its face? Never mind.
No, it's along with other things. It is. It is a part of a whole.
Yeah, it becomes bigoted. So yeah, that scene where he is broken. And I think it's great because Freddy immediately runs. And I mean, this fool runs so freakishly that he falls in the floor and is having like Thunderleg is in his head. It's been 5 seconds and he's already having like flashbacks of the shit he just went through. He is processing, girl. And he runs back to So High and he's like, teacher, let me fill your wine up. Like he was cured, right? Sort of, kind of. It was the one encounter that he needed in order to feel humility. And then after that, oh man, that scene where So High is yanking his wrists around, I almost barfed. I hated that.
Which is part of the hero's journey. You have to fall to the lowest before they can get built back up.
Yes.
I mean, I will say, I get that. I do think the way they did it, it does seem a little like maybe he hasn't changed that much and he really just wants to learn the stuff. Like his niceness has an entirely ulterior motive. It's not, I want to do better and be a better person. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, but yeah, I didn't totally interpret it like that. Maybe a little bit.
He realizes that his strength is not as great as he thought it was, so he wants to learn what he's supposed to learn so he can be better, more stronger at least, and so he can take him out or anybody else who challenges him.
Yeah, the humility was a necessity because he just wasn't getting it. He was not getting it. He was constantly being a shithead, and people were constantly just fucking twisted with him, and he was not giving a damn. Sometimes he was doing good stuff. Sometimes he was doing bad stuff. None of his consequences ever mattered to him. But Thunderleg came in and was like, I'm gonna snap you like a fucking twig. And he did. And I was sweating. I was sweating, you guys, throughout this whole movie. This flared up my tachycardia in a good way.
I guess there's a certain amount of his cockiness came from believing he was the best and by being shown that he can be beaten.
Yeah, he was the son of Robert is what they called him in the dub. I'm sure that's not what he was called originally.
Sensei.
Yeah, he's like a master of whatever.
Exactly. And Thunderleg was just like, your dad's kung fu is shit. I wouldn't let him wipe my ass is what that man said. So yeah, he was broken on quite a few levels. And then he said, no one calls my dad's kung fu shit. That was a blessing.
Because for him, it is an insult to himself as well, you know?
Yeah, he thought it was the bomb.
If he's mastered it. I have a question that maybe Drew is the only one who can answer.
Yes.
So I know, like, the drunken fighting style in general, you don't actually have to be drunk, right? It's a slapstick part of this, but...
You have to.
You don't.
In fact, in the second movie, there comes a part where it's like you actually do better without being drunk because he actually gets drunk too much from using fighting style. So he has to figure out how to do it without being drunk.
These are lies.
Well, and I guess my question was this like a style developed pre this movie and it just popularized it? Or was it something sort of developed for this? Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like... Age is old, right? I would have to look.
Pretty old, yeah. Not as old as other kung fu styles, but yeah, still pretty old. I think the late 16 or 1700s.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar at all.
Oh, that's pretty fucking old.
Yeah, that is old. But yeah, I'm not familiar with any kind of martial arts, really, if I'm being perfectly honest. So I wouldn't know. It's funny because I actually did take classes when I was young, but I don't remember a single fucking thing about it. And I think I only did it for like a year.
So what, you got to like brown belt?
I don't think I even got to a belt. Especially because half the time in class, I'm pretty sure I was just fucking around, knowing me. Also, the other thing was, the other things I did that were any kind of like sport type of thing, I am looping in like martial arts into sport.
It's athletics.
Yes, but I was never a very athletic person. But the one really that I stuck with was one where you did not have to do anything at home, basically. All the practice was always mandated. Do you know what I mean? They were within the time of practice or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, no. It's like playing the guitar. You have to go home and annoy everyone at your home with it, or else you're never going to learn it.
And so that was a problem with me in school, too. Like, I didn't want to do work at my house. My house was for me and me time. And time at school was the time that was allotted for doing things. And that's, I think, the same, like, way I felt about, you know, martial arts class, where you have to practice when you are not at class, versus the only other thing I did that was even remotely athletic was cheerleading. And the only time you really had to do anything was at practice. We would do it a few times a week, and that was enough.
I mean, that makes sense.
Partly because in terms of lifts in cheerleading, you should only be doing it with each other, first of all. You cannot do it by yourself.
It's impossible.
Well, you could do it with people who don't know how to, but that's a bad idea because they will fall. Anyhow.
Safety issues.
Yes. Yeah, because the first time I found out about the sort of drunken style was in junior high. We were watching The Matrix. And there's a part where his like brain is like downloading all these like martial arts. And one that comes up says drunken style. And we all thought it was very funny, not knowing it was a real style, thinking it was just like drunken brawl fighting.
Tavern fighting.
Yeah, pretty much. And then later we're like, oh, no, it's a thing, you know?
Yeah, I knew it was a thing. I just didn't know if it was like very, very old or what. I didn't know any details on it.
Correction to that. Correct myself on that.
Yeah.
It's as old as the 1200s.
So it's ancient. I would call that ancient, y'all.
The other kung fu styles go back as far as 300 BC.
Extreme ancientness.
Well, there you go. I mean, I'm sure like anything, it evolves, right? It probably looks different nowadays, but...
Yeah, a little. But, you know, tradition is a big part of Kung Fu, so
for sure.
We're not changed that much.
So I'm going to do the thing that I always swear I'm never going to do. I promise myself. I'm like, don't talk about other movies. Don't talk about other movies. But I have to do it, I guess. Drew, have you ever seen... Basil, I'm not even going to ask you. Drew, have you ever seen Ip Man?
Yeah. Which one?
The original.
Yeah.
So the reason I bring it up is because... Hold on, let me back up a little bit. I've only seen that movie once. And it was a DVD that was completely raw. It had no dub. It had no subtitles. And I was on a date with somebody. And it was probably one of the most romantic things anyone's ever done for me. This person had seen it so many times that she was able to tell me like a play-by-play of what was going on in such a complete way that I felt like I was basically hearing the subtitles. And I think this person mentioned that martial art style that Ip Man uses was like...
Wing Chun.
It was developed like by women and for people who have like smaller bodies.
Yeah.
And of course I'm using cisnormative language, but you guys know what I mean.
Gendered language, yeah.
Thank you, gendered language. So yeah, there's evidently a martial art style out there for every damn thing.
Well, technically, one of the Drunken Masters was a woman. Which, I don't know, Freddy was unwilling to learn the woman's style.
At the end of the day, that's what saved him.
Sort of. He never technically learned it.
He improvised it, though. He improvised it. He accepted it. He accepted Miss Ho into his heart. That was the key. He was rejecting her at first. He was like, I'm cool with the guy who, I can't remember any of them, the guy who's holding a gourd at his waist. I'm cool with all these folks. The guy who pinches the throat the hardest, but I reject Miss Ho. And I'm so glad I watched the dub because I got to hear the best line out of any movie I've watched in a long time, which was, I must be getting addicted. Here's to Miss Ho. And after that, he vanquishes the bad guy. I loved the way this movie, it toyed with you. It was like, he's being misogynistic. But then it turned around.
I'm going to tell you a couple things about why I'm not on the same page as you on that. Because of the first scene. But there's some stuff specifically about Jackie Chan that makes me think maybe that's not the message going on.
Elaborate.
So he is not very popular in Hong Kong, where he is from. There's a few reasons for that, but I'll tell you the two reasons why I'm pretty sure Jackie Chan is like real sexist. One of them, you know, Michelle Yeoh?
Yes.
From Everything Everywhere All at Once. So she had been doing a movie with him in the 90s. I forget which movie. And she was in an interview. She does afterwards kind of play it off as a joke. And I don't know if it really was a joke or if because the audience gets kind of awkward about it that she does. But she basically said that Jackie Chan was a chauvinist pig and that he thinks women should be in the kitchen except for her because she would kick his ass. So, like, that's one thing. Okay, maybe that was just really a joke. It was nothing. But, like, he also is kind of known to be a bit of a womanizer on top of that. And is very... This is really hard to talk about because this is somebody else's culture. And I try my best to not, like, judge as much as I can because, like, I don't live it. But the Chinese Communist Party is also very into, like, very traditional gender roles. And he is very pro Chinese Communist Party.
I don't know anything. I know nothing about it. I know zero about any of this. Not to say that I rebuke it. You know what I mean? It's just like, I really need to learn more, I guess.
Like about the Chinese Communist Party, that kind of thing, or just about...
And also Mr. Chan as an individual.
Yeah. I don't want to say this man, it's just like every other person who contains multitudes. He also, for sure, 100% had an affair with a woman while he was married. It is rumored that he's also a womanizer in other ways, but he for sure had an affair with a woman and she had a child and he never helped her and he never had a relationship. I don't think he's ever met his daughter. So he's not a great guy, if I'm being perfectly honest. But
oh, dear.
I didn't want to bring any of this up, but like, it's hard not to. Because for me, it colors the film a little.
Okay, I know what you're saying because I have zero knowledge I'm at ground zero. So I'm taking everything in this film ground zero face value. We can assume that I don't know who the fuck Jackie Chan is, period, dot the end when I'm watching this movie.
Yeah, of course. I get that. And I don't think, because he's not the only person in the movie. That's the one thing, right? He's not the only person. He didn't control everything. He wasn't the director. But it does color some of the scenes for me in terms of maybe this isn't as much of a joke as I would like it to be. You know what I mean? And maybe he's not all that redeemed at the end.
For the intents and purposes of this podcast, if you bring it back down to black and white, let's just say the movie, let's remove, I hate doing that too, because I can't do that for people like, Tom Cruise. I still have to do it for Jackie Chan and Tom Cruise. You see what I'm saying? It's tough.
Yeah. And I think it is, you're in a weird position sometimes when you know things. Because the thing is, there are a few Tom Cruise movies that I love, right? You know what I mean? Like, I really love Minority Report. I can't help it. But I think it's different too when you know about something pre-watching something and when you know it post-watching something as well.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
Let's twist it back to the writers. Because Jackie Chan did not write this script, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was some of what I was saying. He's not the only person who worked on this film.
Correct.
I will say, watching him do it makes me angry. Like, watching him be sexist makes me particularly angry a little bit. You know what I mean?
However, the writers turned it around, in my humble opinion. He clowned on his cousin and he got his ass kicked by his aunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He clowned on his aunt and his aunt threw major shade on him in front of his dad to the point where he was like shaking in his boots.
Yeah.
He clowned on Miss Ho. Now, for our listener, when I'm talking about Miss Ho, I'm referring to one of the drunken masters, as he refers to it, 8 drunken gods. And this is basically 8, I want to say fighting styles, but the whole thing is a fighting style. These are basically 8 different moves.
Forms.
Oh, yeah, forms.
Drew, yes. The very last one is the token female, and her name is Miss Ho. And at first, Freddie is like, he's joking around. He's like, ooh, la, la, he, this is dumb. He's like, this is girly stuff. He's being like, no question about it.
Isn't this a form for women?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what made me think about Ip Man. But anyway, the drunken master is like, no, you're going to learn this. You need Miss Ho. She's part of the crew. And he continues to fuck off. Well, in the ending scene, when he's dealing it out with almost said Thunderfuck. Thunderleg.
Just your own feelings slipping out there.
Yeah. So I don't know what it is about his style. I'm just like, Freddy's doing all right against him until he gets to the Miss Ho part. And he flat out says, teacher, I didn't practice Miss Ho. And his teacher's response is, Ho is what you feel in your heart, essentially. And when he's like, all right, fine, I will accept it. I will let go of my misogynistic feeling. He doesn't really think that or say that, but it's just sort of like, okay, I'll accept it. Then he kicks his fucking ass.
Okay.
It alludes to the fact that he could have twisted his head off. What else? Oh, he could have the whole walnut training thing where he's like cracking walnuts with his fingertips. It basically sort of implies that he could have done that to Thunderleg, but he didn't. But he still whipped his ass.
Yeah. I think one of my problems with that in general is that he then also, I don't know, like rags on women while he's doing it, right? Like, and
Did he?
things that are feminine. Yeah, he was like, oh, a woman puts on her makeup. She looks at herself in the mirror.
Naming the moves, things that women do.
Quote unquote, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I don't see those as negative things.
Well, in a way that is a stereotype, right? Like, he's not making stereotypes about anyone else, right? Any of the other masters. It is not the one thing, right? Like, it is, like we sort of were talking about the racism, xenophobia thing. It is not the one thing. It is the one thing of the whole. It is the synecdoche. That's the most succinct word I could think of it.
Ooh. Say that again?
Synecdoche. It's... It means a part that represents the whole. Do you know what I mean? So like, let me look up an example. I'm not very good at making examples for things. In this case, I'm saying it is the one thing that is representing a general sexism versus like, yeah, okay, by itself, it's not a thing, right?
I'm going to have to agree to disagree because the entire movie is set up to where he is getting punished. He is directly getting punished every time he acts misogynistically. Yeah, we hate it when he's doing it. And there for a minute, like in the beginning when he was clowning on his cousin, I was like, oh, don't let him get away. He's going to get away with this. This is just the kind of movie this is going to be. This is the sign of the times, da 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 da. But I was corrected. The movie then corrected me. It was like, nah, he's not going to get away with it. The delay was just a little bit more pronounced with the Miss Ho move.
He was clowning on Miss Ho, and that's the form that saved him.
Right. It's sort of like, yeah, I mean, drag queens can be like, I'm putting on my makeup, I'm looking in the mirror.
But the art of drag itself is meant to be a exaggeration of it, right? And yeah, to be honest, I think that sometimes there is a argument for sexism inherent in drag because there is some. There just is, unfortunately. But it is its own art form itself, which has a lot of kind of groups. Whereas this was just a dude making fun of a lady, a dude making fun of women in general.
I don't know. Am I fucked up that I thought it was okay? Like sometimes I'm in my car and I'm at a really, really long red light and I'm like, look at me. I'm putting on my makeup. Look at me. I'm putting on my eyelashes. I'm going to start saying that out loud.
It wasn't just the putting on the makeup. It was then like, oh, the woman also looks at herself in the mirror. You know what I mean? Like there are some negative connotations to that, especially, again, combined with the other things. There was a part where he's like, the old lady sits on the toilet and farts. Like, I guess the whole thing is a comedy, so it makes it really hard.
Farts are funny, Basil.
Farts are funny, fine. But sometimes when you are trying to joke, you are treading in stereotypes, is what I'm trying to say. And he did. He is treading in stereotypes of women because he doesn't respect them.
You're saying it's not his joke to make.
I guess. And like I said, it's the piece of the whole, right? By the way, I did find some pretty good examples of synecdoche, but synecdoche.
So wait, I have to ask the question, Basil, would it have been better if he was like, okay, I understand, I'm going to accept Miss Ho into my heart, and then did just a generic ass kicking, like at his own self?
Possibly, but I also think it's like if he mixed in more things that were also just neutral or positive in the view of women. Does that make sense?
But what? But like how?
Like grace or something? You know what I mean?
He was being so graceful the entire damn thing. Like
like I said, if it was more neutral, because we accept things about men being neutral, right? Things about men are the default. So anything outside of that.
I'm watching so much football.
Well, that is something that is considered masculine. Also, it wouldn't fit.
That would be kind of funny. But if a guy said that, do that, hey, look at me, I'm watching so much football. That would be funny because
I would be like, you say
it can't. Hold on. I'm going to argue it can be. And I'm going to say where.
It can be, but it's not inherently funny.
Particularly that SNL sketch where they have the Totino's pizza rolls and it's like, my hungry guys. And then there's this whole thing about them mindlessly going, go, 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 touchdown kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He should have ran the ball. Ooh, look at me. I just know that Tony Romo should have ran the ball.
I'm just saying, I think that
he's in the end zone.
You can do.
He's a defensive forward.
God damn it.
Ooh, I know these words. Stephen A. said.
God damn it. So you can do exaggerations of your own gender and it still come off as funny. I genuinely believe that's true.
I'm sorry. I'm tickled now. Okay, I'm good.
I get it. There is sometimes funniness in terms of like people saying performing gender in a certain way. And that's fine. I'm saying I have a hard time removing it from the scenes before, right?
Yes.
And then also the things I know, like I said, it is the part of the whole. It's not the thing by itself. You know what I mean? It's never like, and that's the problem with things like that are punching down a little, where it is not the one thing. It never is. It is the one thing that is just adding to the whole.
Right. It's boiling the frog.
Yes.
I wasn't meaning to crap on your point because I totally see it. It's just, I'm also coming from a weird gender place.
That's fair.
But I don't think that makes it any better. It makes it worse because women are different.
It just means your perspective is different, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, it is not the one thing. It never really is. It's not about the one thing. And that's where I think people tend to get defensive when you try and say, like, hey, this might be kind of sexist. It is, okay, one thing is fine. It's just, as a whole, this thing is perpetuated a lot.
I find sometimes that bigotry, especially misogyny, is on a spectrum just like everything else.
Yeah.
It's got scale sliders.
Yeah, of course. That's why the term microaggressions sort of came about. They are racist. How much harm they're doing maybe isn't very little, but it's death by 1,000 cut kind of thing. I'm saying that as a white person, so I should shut the fuck up, but you know what I'm saying. Anyhow, on to my favorite part, costumes. Just to reinforce gender stereotypes. Not that funny, apparently. What time period was this supposed to be in?
Too sure.
Well, in the biggest reason I ask, at first I was like, oh, this probably takes place during the 70s. Because we're not seeing like everybody, right? We're just seeing this one martial arts school. But then I was like, maybe it's not actually the 70s, because once they start, the world sort of expands more. It's like, oh, no, everyone seems to be wearing things that are like slightly more traditional. But I'm also really unfamiliar with what China was like in the 70s. So I could not tell. And like I said, I read a little bit afterwards about the film. In particular, I guess the two people that were portraying Freddie and Sohai were figures in legend that may or may not have really existed. So I was trying to figure out, like, is this meant to be them in terms of legend? Is this supposed to be fantasy outside of time? Is this supposed to be a time in the past? Is this supposed to just be the 70s? That's what I was trying to figure out, because that does change my opinion on the costuming, if I'm being honest.
Well, the quick result I got is the early 20th century. So sometime in the 20s or 30s. 40s, maybe?
In 10s, maybe even. Okay. That does make things... Because I was like, okay, if it is meant to be the past, they're wearing too much jersey knit for that to be the case. And it was probably not very historically accurate. Not a big deal. That doesn't necessarily mean the film is bad, or even that the costuming is bad. Particularly if you're meaning for it to be something a little more of a fantasy version of the past. Anyhow, some of the textiles were real gorge. Particularly in Freddie's dad's school, they had the medallion embroidery on everything, where it's that just slight embroidery where if you turn, there's a sheen. Love it.
Before I forget, did you love how the chef's hat said "thieves will be punished" on it?
Yes. Oh my God, yes. Because he was like the enforcer.
Yeah. Like, oh, we just have our chef back here where no one can fucking see him, but he sure is wearing a hat that says "thieves will be punished" because we're going to need that at some point.
Yeah.
But
well, that's what he's there for.
Yeah. What I was going to say was I loved that light blue number that Freddie was wearing in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And his dad had a matching one that was red, and it had those...
The medallion things. That's what I was talking about.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like a tapestry. I'm talking about their outfit.
Yeah. The fabric on it has these, I believe it's embroidered. It might be woven in where it has a sheen on the pattern versus like the background is like matte.
There's like raised circles.
Yeah.
It's like it's all the same color, but it looks different because some is shiny and some is not. That was beautiful. Yep. That was really, really beautiful.
Really loved that.
Yeah, when that got ruined, I was sad.
I know. I really loved what the aunt was wearing, mostly just because I think that's just more my style in terms of things I like, versus the younger girl, like not really my taste, but a lot of her costuming was meant to be like, oh, look how young and virtuous she is. But I also thought it was interesting, and I don't know if this is the case, because there are people wearing white later. Like, I do think white, again, it's hard because, like, this is a different culture to see what things mean to other people. But the rich guy that he beats up is wearing entirely white.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is a cultural thing at all, but I do notice in, film a lot of the time that is, and in real life actually, is a signal that you are rich, because you have to launder it all the time if it gets dirty.
And also, you're not going to get dirty because other people are...
Do everything for you.
Yeah. That's actually, That's why wedding gowns are white, by the way. All of American tradition is just us trying to pretend to be rich British people.
Bougie.
Yeah, that's why we have lawns. Anyhow, yeah, I just thought that was a nice touch, being like, this person is rich and here's like a symbol that they're rich, you know? But the thing is, like, I was like, am I wrong about this? Because, you know, other people wear white. They just don't usually wear like all white. So maybe I was wrong. And like I said, I don't know in terms of color what things represent in Chinese culture, right? Like culturally,
Right.
There's going to be different ideas about color.
Well, and also I think some of it is as simple too as I'm going to go back to my favorite boy, Thunderleg. His outfit to me was sort of just like, that's the 70s. Like, it's not what I know to be like the American 70s, but it has all of the fucking 70s check boxes. It's yellow. It kind of looks like Bee Gees. Also stacked up with his beautiful, beautiful hair and his beautiful, beautiful chops.
Oh, yeah. That was very 70s.
That outfit just hits all the 70s notes for me, and that was cool. I was also thinking, because Basil, you kind of have me trained to this now. Drew, are you the same? Like, do you think now, like, Basil would say this costume is representative of this? His costume was yellow, and I was like, oh, Basil is going to say something about maybe like cowardice, but I think in this case, you know, sometimes it might be joy. But in this instance, I think it's just the fucking 70s.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, because I don't always know all the cultural significances. The one thing I do know about is red, and red not symbolizing quite the same thing in Western cultures as it does in China specifically, where red is like a lucky color and it is...
I think it is like a happy color, and we interpret it as the angry color.
Yeah, so women will wear red on their wedding days a lot, and there's the red envelopes for, I believe it's New Year.
Yeah, Chinese New Year. They give kids red envelopes with money inside.
Yeah. Give me that money.
So it's very obvious that we have different ideas about color. Not always, obviously. They're bound to be overlap, but yeah, that did make it a little harder for me when watching. I will say that I think you are on point about like it being a little 70s. Both of their haircuts, both Freddie and Thunderleg's haircuts are so 70s, and the mustache, everything. I think the mustache might be the thing that I'm like, ugh.
I'm not normally for mustaches, but I was like, all right.
But I think some of the silhouettes are a little bit 70s. Like, it's interesting. You will find that there will be like historical films of all kinds from the past, right? So 70s, 80s, 90s, etc. And I think that until a certain point, that is actually a fairly recent history, that most filmmakers did not put a lot of emphasis on historical accuracy. That is the same for, I think, most film, not Hollywood as well. I would argue even harder for, because I know for sure they did not care quite as much about historical accuracy for a long time. And there's always something to be said about, like, it is a film. It is slightly fantastical no matter how realistic you are making it, right? And there are stylistic choices that have to do with the film. So there will always be things that are a little outside of time. Unless your entire costuming is like reproductions, there will always be some stuff that's like outside of time. But it
was so cool, Drew. I'm sorry. Like, in a vacuum, I'm like sitting here. I'm so sorry, Basil. In my mind, all I can picture is just like Freddie just chugging that jug of wine and his foot movements. And I'm sorry. I'm very, 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 very difficult to impress. Okay. This had me. Why did this have me and Kat's didn't?
Different taste.
Because martial arts is cool.
Hey, I like dance and singing and theater.
I really like singing, but for some reason I don't like dance. Did you guys know I will not dance? Like, even if I am 12 sheets to the wind, I refuse
Same.
to. We talked about this before, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Outside the podcast.
Yeah, where the only way I will dance is if I drink, but I don't drink anymore because of my medications. So, like, I just don't dance anymore.
I can get so drunk and still there is a fail-safe mechanism in my brain that's like, don't you do it.
No dance. No dance.
It's almost as if I'm like, I'm going to get so drunk, I'm going to stick a fork in an electrical outlet. Like, that would never happen, right? That's how my brain is with dancing. It's like, no, you're not.
Defense mechanism.
Right, exactly. Thank you.
Think that I might be that way, or I would be, except that I've been with Billy for like, 18 years now, maybe something like that.
What? Damn.
Yeah, we've been together for a really long time. Is that right? I might be right. Fuck. But he fucking loves to dance. He's horrible. He's the worst dancer I've ever seen in my entire fucking life, but he loves it. And he will try and make me dance at like any opportunity.
Seems like one of those hypes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This does not surprise me, Basil.
No, like it's very him. But we'll be in a store and he'll hear a song that he likes and he'll be like, let's dance with me. And I'm like, please, I just want to go grocery shopping.
Bill will be out here fucking pussy popping at the Walmart.
Yeah.
He don't care.
The problem is he can't figure out like what beat you should move on. Do you know?
Bless his heart. He's a free spirit.
It's so funny. I've had to like kind of show him a little. And then, like I said, he wants to go dancing and we've gone out to places where you can dance. There used to be this goth club close to where we live. Wait a second. Goth
dancing is its own thing, okay? There are goth dances.
But like, it's still club music. It's basically the same thing.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So like, we would, dance, but we would go because I wanted to dress up in something fun and elaborate because they would also have themes. Yeah, is there any last things y'all want to say about the film then?
Thunder dick.
Okay.
Sorry. Oh, I do want to say in the beginning, I wrote this down in my notes. Somebody says, "You're the cat's ass." Someone says, "Freddie, you're the cat's ass." And I'm keeping that. I like that. Cat's ass.
Okay. Who wants to start with their...
I want to go first.
Okay.
This is a big Yestalgia for me. Wow. As I said before, both of you guys picked just outstanding movies for me that really just floods and floods of dopamine from the last two movies that you guys picked. I loved the choreography. It just kept me zoned in the entire time. This movie was like Adderall on screen for me. It was beautiful. It was funny. It had meaningful moments. Not too terribly many, but the meaningful moments that it had kind of hit for me. Yeah, thanks, Drew. Good one.
So I'm going to say, despite all my kvetching, I'm not Jewish. I don't know why I said it like that.
Yeah.
Despite all my complaints, I'm going to give this a pretty soft nostalgia. And the only reason I'll say that is that, like I said, I do not think this is a bad movie, generally. I think it is well crafted. It is well paced, things like that. It just so did not cross over into anything I'm interested in. So here's where my Yestalgia comes in. If you like martial arts of any kind, if you're really interested in that, if you're into that kind of film, if you're into slapstick humor, you're probably going to like this. That's my thoughts on it. It seems like something another person would like. If you are more like me and you're not interested in any of those things, you won't. So that's why I am actually giving it a Yestalgia. I don't think it's bad. Just not really for me. That's it.
Same criteria as Spaceballs for you.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, I think one could find a lot to like in this. It just is not something for me. That's it.
However, if you're like me and Amanda, you will love this movie. It's great.
I had no idea.
I like martial arts movies in general, but this is one of the greats. Jackie Chan at his finest. All the slapstick he does in his martial arts and outside. Like Amanda said, the choreography was amazing. Great comedy, entertaining throughout. So for me, is also strong Yestalgia.
Yeah. So those are our reviews. I think that has been all for Yestalgia today. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.